South America, there are a number of mobile laboratory applications for vapor pressure. So that's where I would go to look for, any environmental protection type opportunities. Safety and asset protection. So it's probably one of the most important ones as far as moving fuel from place to place, right? So anytime we're transporting crude oil or fuel, that infrastructure, that equipment is designed or specified to work with vapor pressure or fluids with a limit of vapor pressure, right? So that means massive pumps on pipelines. If vapor pressure is too high, cavitation occurs, which can actually cause the pumps to violently explode. This is a serious condition, okay? Maritime vessels, you can imagine a ship full of crude oil, floating in the sun. That sample's going to heat up and expand. That could result in a hull breach. A sunk or damaged floating roof tank on any storage tank is very bad, as well as rail car explosions. We've had a number of incidents with that here in North America. Pipeline damage, and the worst thing of all, of course, loss of life. So very, very important when it comes to logistics of crude oil and its refined products. Where to look for these opportunities? Well, that's, again, kind of simple. But port facilities, anytime vessels are being loaded or offloaded, pipeline terminals, tank farms, crude oil stabilizer sites. So this is where you'll see crude oil or condensate coming out of the ground and being stabilized or have the vapor pressure brought down to a limit that's safe to transport in today's oil and gas infrastructure. So yeah, rail yard loading for trains and also truck racks for soft shell carriers, trucks, over-the-road trucks. Profitability. So this is a big one. And really this comes into the midstream sector. And really what's happening is the producers or people that are trading crude oil or fuels are often trying to reduce what we call the giveaway. Okay, so the giveaway is the pressure difference between the product's vapor pressure and the limit that's set by the authoritative bodies, right? So for example, if you have a 100 kPa fuel and the limit's 110 kPa, then you have a 10 kPa giveaway. That means that you could have injected or blended lighter components into that fuel to expand it, right? And you're essentially selling that cheaper product, usually in the form of butane. You're selling that as gasoline. So happens both on the crude oil side and for gasoline. So crude oil, butane could be kind of snuck into the recipe as a diluent or an extraction solvent, but really what they're trying to do is to expand the volume of crude oil that they're selling. Okay, same thing with gasoline. So if you have a gasoline that you're trading or selling to a partner, and it's a little bit lower than the limit, then you're going to want to inject or blend or even enhance, is some of the vocabulary, the product by mixing a lighter component. So where to go? Well, as I said, so directly at the crude oil stabilizer sites, because they're going to want to know what the vapor pressure of that crude condensate is coming right off of the process, so that they know if they can add anything directly to it to increase the profitability. And also midstream pipeline operations where gasoline is enhanced, again, with a static mixer or, possibly through pumps or something like this, but they're typically going to use butane or other inexpensive light ends. So that's where you would go to look for the enhancement opportunities, is at the midstream level. Okay, and I'm just going to close this section with just a brief history on vapor pressure. So really it all started in 1930, okay? And this is a very, very old method, ASTM D323. It's still around. From what I understand, a lot of a lot of countries still use it, not just for crude oil, but also for gasoline certification. Takes a very long time, and I have to be careful, I know, because you sell this equipment for Kohler, but large sample volume, we've covered that, right? Lengthy sample and equipment preparation. You all know that you have to disassemble the bomb. You have to clean it thoroughly, right? Before and after really every measurement. And sometimes for even crude oil, these tests can take up to 1 hour, all right, where the operator has to remove the bomb every 2 minutes and shake the test vessel and introduce it back into the bath. We also have problems with moisture. And of course, moisture and alcohol do not mix well. So when we're talking about oxygenated fuels, it becomes even more frowned upon to be working with a method that uses water, because you're actually immersing the bomb into a water bath, right? So Dr. Grabner, he really in the early 90s came out with D5191, which a lot of you have, I'm sure, have heard of. It's the first mini method, or the piston expansion method, that correlated directly to D323. But building on that, D6378 was a piston type expansion method that negated the need for sample prep. So customers or producers could compare samples from around the world without sample prep. Okay, so using only 1 milliliter of sample, about 5 minutes for a complete analysis without any input from the operator. So no shaking or anything. It's all handled internally to the analyzer. Okay. So that was just a little bit on the analyzer, PSSC. Why did we build this analyzer, and where to look for these opportunities? And as you can see, a lot of the opportunities are going to be simple because they're where you're already selling bombs and baths, right? But some of it may not be so obvious. And like I said, when you're in the field at tank farms and truck loading racks, right? These operations typically are not going to be employing read methods, and those are prime targets for the mini methods. Okay. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the launch progress. As I already mentioned, we did a soft launch for this analyzer back in October of 24. And I say soft launch because we wanted to see how a lot of the customers that we already know from doing business with them on the service side would react to this analyzer. Okay. And of course, our competitors are there as well. So we didn't make an announcement. We launched it at Gulf Coast Conference, and we entered the analyzer directly into the new product showcase. Now, we didn't win it. It's hard to win those things, but vapor pressure is vapor pressure. People don't get too excited about it. But we had some key players in the industry that took interest very quickly, and mostly, I would say, from the independent testing laboratories, as well as midstream operations. And we even took some feedback from those customers, back with us from this conference, and implemented those features on the analyzer. So very well received. Soft launch, of course, we got to deal with Juan Ayala and Philip Jordan from Aeralytics. They were very shocked. And that's where everything kind of started here, over almost a year now, right? We're getting there. So at the end of this very same week, at the end of this Gulf Coast conference, the Crude Oil Quality Association conference tied their meeting to the end of the conference, and that yielded a very large group of attendants. Okay, you can see in the picture on the left side, that's a very large group for one of these meetings. So, we were invited by the president, yes, of COQA, to talk a little bit with panelists from Canada about the challenges that continue to plague the industry for crude oil. And so basically my piece, or our piece from PSSC, was to deliver slides on how to best ensure the successful precision when using AST 6377 because it's an excellent method. And so it's interesting just to see how slowly the industry moves. I mean, I had presented slides back in 2014 that some of the people were still using. So we'll continue to fight the good fight and, stay at the forefront of, these types of conferences. So again, the crude oil community really, really like this analyzer. Again, this is ready to go if you want to use it for crude oil. For live crude oil, meaning a pressurized sample, we offer pressurized cylinders and attachments, excuse me, and attachments to run crude oil. So carrying on into the end of 2024, we had taken the RVP Pro to ASTM with us. That was in Anaheim, California. PSSC as a representative of XOS. We're also a co-sponsor of this hospitality event that draws hundreds of people. And the RVP Pro, again, very well received. This time around, we even had some more competitors directly stop by. So we had Ian Milria from Stanhope SATA and Christian Schroeder from Airalytics. He stopped by, and we actually got some applause from them. They were very surprised, but they were. I feel as though that we earned respect from them at this meeting. So throughout the week, main topic really was from the community, simplicity, affordability, and robustness, and those continue to be the theme for this analyzer. Some of you on this call had actually joined us in May. That was at the Kohler headquarters on Long Island, and that's where we launched the Kohler branded unit. So again, there's a Kohler private labeled version of this analyzer. You all welcomed us very warmly. Thank you all so much. It was a great meeting, and it was nice to meet a handful of you on this call here. But the really great thing about it was it generated so much excitement because, we all need a competitive, affordable, modern vapor pressure analyzer for our product portfolios to win these public tenders. And I really think that that's, where the opportunity and the excitement comes from. So that was an excellent meeting with the Kohler representatives. And then most recently, we had just returned from ASTM. That was in Kansas City. Again, we co-sponsored the XOS hospitality event. And yeah, only one bullet for this one. Again, it is clear that the industry is ready. Okay, there's so much talk about this analyzer in terms of what it offers for the cost. And it's even to the point where we've already delivered the analyzer, okay, with forming, at least in my opinion, one of the largest oil and gas players in the U.S. And I'm not going to mention it here, but right now, but it is very exciting and something that tells me that we're really on a good path with this analyzer. So what I would say to everyone is now's the time to field the analyzers. I mean, we're really 6 months into this, 6 months into the year, right? So we're already into the second half of 2025. PSSC and Kohler is not immune to price hikes. They won't be anything like our competitors, but I would say, yeah, let's really make an effort to charge these analyzers into the field for the remainder of 2025 with the year one pricing. Take advantage of that while we still can. Okay, so yeah, we're getting close on time. I'm just going to go over the standardization development news. Okay, so again, we just came back from ASTM and just a few bullet points here, but for the test methods for vapor pressure are due for immediate ballot action. So basically, the way that we expect D323 and D4953 to turn out is that there will be no change for these methods. In fact, they're only going to keep resubmitting them as is. There's nothing groundbreaking or earth-shattering that's ever going to happen with these methods, and so people just need to keep them around, for the countries that are still using them, more or less, right? Very, very few people are using those methods in the U.S. As well as the third one, which is D5482. That is a method that's specific to the ABB 4100 online analyzer, as well as the Herzog series of laboratory analyzers. So again, we don't expect anyone to stand up and bring anything to the table that's going to make either one of those or that any of those methods bring them back to life. It's not going to happen. But the one that's relevant to us is D6377. So that is the expansion method that the RVP Pro performs for crude oil. And we'll talk a little bit about that now. So some of the ongoing business at ASTM does involve 6377. And really, it's about the mixing energy, or what they'll call the agitation rate. And that is how fast the measuring cell with the sample in it shakes back and forth, simulated, right, as if an operator were shaking the bomb, okay? And why that's important is, if you do not apply enough mixing energy, then you can satisfy the equilibrium criterion before a true equilibrium has been realized. So we're in the process of defining how much mixing speed should be applied to the sample. So the good news in all of this for us is we've been doing this for several years. I had worked with Aerolytics when this topic first came out. So the RVP has plenty of provision for mixing energy in the future. Even if we should happen to find more difficult crude oil or heavier crude oil that has a hard time with equilibrium. So in other words, we have lots of room with increasing our shaking speed, regardless of what becomes of this topic. So we're looking good, is what I'm saying. On the D5191 method front, what's happening here is the U.S. Laboratories are really asking that D6378, meaning the method that does not require sample prep, is recognized as a method that can be certified, be used to certified gasoline. And the important part here is actually linking the two methods and getting a note into D5191 that advises the user that they can use D6378. So that's really exciting. Probably more for the US than anything, because everyone here still performs sample preparation for D5191, and it causes problems. It causes user errors. Then on the new business side, that's some proficiency testing plan data. Okay, so that's where all the laboratories kind of get together and run the same samples to see how well the data and the precision are being produced by the test methods. And the bottom line here is that 5191 and D6378 are very well in agreement, and that they exhibit excellent correlation. Okay. And the last point was just that all vapor pressure methods in this cycle are due for review in 2025, and all reviewers have been assigned. So nothing earth-shattering, but just to let you guys know that we are in the mix on development of these standards and shaping them for the future. So there's just a quick update on the ASTM side. And then the most recent news really is that we had done a webinar with Baytech. So Baytech is a vendor for laboratory information management system software, or LIMS, okay? And that is a software that most large laboratories are going to connect their analyzers to, so that they can get the data and also the statistical quality control analysis from the trends on their analyzers. So they have been doing, I say they, Baytech, specifically Josh Burkhalter, he's the Baytech Business Development Manager. But, we did this RVP Pro edition together, and it yielded about 60 attendees, 10 of which were international, and we actually had 2 competitors that joined us as well. But the focus for the webinar was really on the RVP Pro, measuring a proto fuel or gasoline that has a known value. And we're really looking at the precision of this analyzer in Baytech's software. So we did 20 measurements over 20 days on a gasoline, a summer gasoline with known value. And probably the most interesting part is visually was just the LIMS integration and charting of this data that we had provided them with. Okay, so it's just a half-hour webinar, and what we did pretty much was just ran this analyzer in the background while we were talking about some of the data. And what's interesting here is that you can see that all 20 measurements were very well within the boundaries for precision. And the analyzer had actually generated, this is interesting, it's actually a different analyzer, but it generated a value of 8.44. I'm sure it's hard to see on your screen, but the accepted reference value for this gasoline was 8.45 psi. So really cool, to see that happen. We went into some other screens and looked at some other statistics. And as far as Anderson-Darling statistics, you can see these cells in green. Okay, so statistically, this analyzer is reading very well, but this test performance index here is a really cool number because typically this value is around 3.0 for analyzers that are very, very precise, right? So anything over a 3 is considered very good in the world of statistics. And the data produced by the previous analyzer here was nearly a 5. So again, just highlighting the precision of this analyzer. Anybody can do it, more or less with pure substances, but to be able to do measurements like this and have them be so repeatable on complex summer grade gasoline is truly remarkable. So that was a great webinar. We closed that with some tips and tricks and some troubleshooting, but all in all, that's where we are today. So after all this is said and done, here we are, and it's July 11th, and we've done quite a bit, and we're selling analyzers, and the goal here is to get you all interested and out there and talking to people, and giving us feedback on what the market wants, and yeah, I just we're getting close on time, so I'm kind of rushing the end here. But that was the last slide on the Baytech webinar, Dario. But I think that we can probably go into questions if you guys want, because I think we only have about 10 minutes left here.
Dario. Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
Hola, ¿tienen alguna pregunta para Jason? Aprovechando que está aquí, él nos puede aclarar todo con respecto al equipo y la competencia. ¿Ok? Angelina, I have a question in the chat, please.
Yes. So, Jason, there's a question. Which analyzer, in your opinion, is the biggest competition?
Okay. So that's a great question. That's actually easy. I don't know if I want to say it out loud though. Well, there's a particular red analyzer that's probably our biggest competition, and the reason for that is price point and perception and value perception, right? So I've already mentioned that the Grabner instrument in the US, it's just about $40,000 now, right? Now, when you take that price point and you compare it to, say, 25, that's pretty easy, right? That's an easy decision to make. The hard part is when you start looking at, I'll say an Aerovap, right? If you're looking at an Aerovap and the Aerovap may just be a few $1,000s more, it would be harder to prove to that customer what the value is as a new player on the block, right? So really, it's about showcasing the precision and the durability of the analyzer, delivering something, showing customers that this is something that is as good or better than the red unit, right? And that's what it is. It truly is. I mean, I don't want to say we're close. I mean, we have a good relationship with Aeralytics, right? We service their products. So it's very difficult for me to sit here and talk negatively about their product. It is a good analyzer. Our analyzer is much more durable. Okay. The Aeralytics unit has a lot of features. I think many of you maybe have seen the manual. You're talking almost 300 pages of the manual, right? So everything between onboard ASTM D6299, right? And again, you have to really help your customers navigate through what's necessary to them, right? Because most customers are going to have LIMS subscriptions anyway, if they have one in the laboratory. So that feature to me does not do them any good to have an onboard statistical quality control. Looks nice, right? And it sounds great, but at the end of the day, how many people are using an onboard SQC? So to answer the question, Aeralytics is going to be the closest competitor. And again, that's because we have to navigate between value and the price point, right? You put it against something that costs $15,000 more, and it's an easy decision, especially when you're considering some of the budgets that people are dealing with nowadays for capital expenditures.
Okay,
Did I
so
answer
there
that?
are. I think you did.
What about your opinion about the PAC Herzog unit, the 472?
Yeah, okay. So what is my opinion? So since since I've worked here at PSSC, of course we service those units as well, right? And so again, I'm not really big on, bashing other manufacturers, but I will just say that analyzer, as far as the electronic hardware and even the measuring cell hardware is is outdated. It's been outdated for a very, very long time. I've only seen two of them here since I've worked here, and I wanted to work on them just to learn a little bit more about them because it's not very often that you see them in the field in the US. Is it different in South America or Latin America? Is the Herzog a competitor?
I think so, but as you know, it's a little bit outdated right now. But in the past, they they sold some units here.
Okay. Honestly, that would be an easy target. Yeah. I will say, if you're going to compare the RVP Pro to the Herzog, there's no comparison in terms of measuring interval, right? So we have a couple patents pending, one of which is a simple one. That's just for the shaking mechanism to be locked during transport. Okay, that's a pretty easy one, but one of the really nice ones that we have, it's a thermal isolation patent where we separated the heat sink and the measuring cell from the mounting plate of the measuring cell. And what that means is we can heat very quickly to the measuring temperature. And then when the test is done, we can cool quickly to the injection temperature for the next test. So again, not only robustness and durability, but speed. So this analyzer is very, very fast. And just to give you an idea of how fast I can, we can have a Amatec analyzer sampling, right? As soon as it's done and it's heating up, start sampling the sample on the RVP Pro after it, and we will still have a better measurement done about 1 minute sooner than the VP Vision. So just to kind of put that out there so that everybody can see, again, it is a purpose-built oil and gas analyzer for high volume laboratories, not just for high volume laboratories because it's extremely affordable, right? But very fast measuring interval. The Herzog unit also is very slow heating up and cooling down. I think you probably are aware.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Yes, you're welcome.
So there's another question in the chat. They're saying for customers who will be sampling crude or fuel oils, which they suspect have some moisture content in them, are there any prerequisites for sample preparation of this unit?
It's going to depend how much, okay? Because what water will do or moisture will do, it's going to increase your vapor pressure result typically. Now, if the crude oil can be dried or washed, I know there's several procedures that we deal with for the XOS analyzers as far as removing moisture. Best idea is to get any moisture out of the sample if you can. And that goes for if you're using a mini analyzer or even if you're using the Reed bomb and bath, right? You don't want any moisture inside of your sample. Yeah. But typically it's going to drive the result upward, all right?
All right, sounds good. There's another question. How well does the Aerolytics unit perform testing on live crude samples as compared to the RVP Pro? I think you've touched upon this briefly a while ago.
I just missed. What type of sample did you say?
Live crude samples.
Live crude samples, yeah. So basically, as far as the measurement goes, as good or better, right? I've already said that. The trick with such applications is getting the live sample into the analyzer without any decomposition. So as always, sample collection or sampling is almost just as important as the actual measurement. So I would say that in the case of both of those analyzers, you're going to get an excellent result, but the challenge with such applications is getting it into the analyzer. So again, we offer the same floating piston cylinder as pretty much all of the manufacturers do, right? Grabner Instruments is really the only one that has their own floating piston cylinder. So they have the smaller FPC 250, but we also offer the Welker, so the floating piston cylinder, as long as the Pipeline Pro package from PSSC that includes the inlet adapter and the high pressure hosing tubing necessary to get that live sample in the analyzer without decomposition.
Okay. So it's about okay, there's another question. I guess this will be less as we're nearing 11 a.m. So the question is it necessary to prepare the sample and the fast measure? What are the main key features of the instrument? And you have more additional accessories, I believe.
Would you please reread that, Angelina?
Right. The question is it actually necessary to prepare the sample, and if it measures quickly enough, I guess, and the main key features, and also if there are any additional features, I guess.
Accessories, I think you said, right? So,
Right.
so let me start with the sample prep, right? So regardless of how fast it's introduced into the analyzer, it doesn't matter. If it is a method that requires sample prep, you have to do it. So let's think about it like this. The measuring chamber is essentially during sampling, just like a syringe, right? So the piston is moving back with an open valve, drawing from a low pressure the sample into the cylinder, okay? So if you have a sample that is supposed to be air saturated and it's not, if you have a warm sample and you expose it to a low pressure, right, to get it into the analyzer, what are you doing? You're essentially flashing off volatiles before it even gets into the chamber, okay? If it's for a method that requires it. Now, if you're measuring D6378, like I said, those three expansions are going to identify or calculate the partial pressure that is created by air, which is what you're actually preparing the sample with, and take it out of the equation so it doesn't matter. So to answer the question, if it's a method that requires it or calls for it, you have to do it regardless of how fast the analyzer is. Yes.
Okay.
Second piece was accessories. So we just talked a little bit about the Pipeline Pro package, right? So that's all you need to satisfy crude oil applications. But outside of that, yeah, we have a Pelican case that is designed for the analyzer. So I'm not sure if in Latin America the analyzers have to ship every 6 months for calibration, or if it's just every year for certified fuels. But either way, so bulletproof Pelican case that's custom designed for this analyzer, right? And as far as any peripherals or large accessories, like for example, the Airalytics has the TPMS system, right, for ensuring that the sample's at a certain temperature. Like, we never got involved in any of these. I would call those like frill type accessories, right? So basically, for oil and gas, there aren't any accessories that you need. Okay, the analyzer comes with an accessory box. Inside that box, we have the inlet tubing, along with the inlet lure tip. We have piston oil so that you can, regularly check and add oil if you need to. It comes with a syringe to do that. Power cord. We have spare filters for both crude and gasoline applications to make sure that we don't bring particulates into the chamber, and a USB drive. So, I mean, as far as accessories go, there really isn't anything to be had, in our opinion, for oil and gas. Now, if anyone disagrees or if there's something that they'd like to see, yeah, please let us know, as always. But I think that's the beauty of this analyzer, is the simplicity of it and what it was designed for.
All right. I guess there's no more questions from the chat. And we are a bit 4 minutes. 4 minutes away from 11. Okay, so thank you again, Jason, for the presentation. I'm gonna bring Dario. Do you have any final words before we end the meeting?
Okay, Jason, thank you for this webinar. Thank you for all the information. Very interesting this equipment. Ok, amigos, muchas gracias por la asistencia el día de hoy. Realmente lo apreciamos bastante. Cualquier pregunta, solicitud o inquietud con respecto a este equipo, házmela saber. Recuerden que somos distribuidores, un equipo, todos los distribuidores de Latinoamérica somos un equipo y vamos ajustando nuestro mercado para también las necesidades de los clientes finales y poder llegar a aquellos clientes con especificaciones puntuales como las requiere este equipo. Cualquier requerimiento, por favor, adicional del equipo, pregunta, invitación directamente conmigo y yo ya se las transmito a Angelina y a todo el equipo de Kohler Instrument. Muchas gracias por su tiempo. Espero que haya sido muy beneficioso. Quedo atento a sus comentarios. Muchas gracias a todos. Les deseo un feliz resto de día. Nos vemos muy pronto, amigos. ¿Ok? Muchas gracias a todos. Les deseo un
Thank
feliz
you.
resto
Bye
de día.
bye.
Adiós, gracias,
Have a
Bye
nice
gracias.
bye,
We'll see you
weekend.
Camila.
all
Thank you.
before the end of the year.
Bye
Gracias.
bye.
Buen día.
Gracias. Hasta luego.
Hasta
Gracias.
luego. Buen día.
Gracias,
Felipe,
saludos.
hasta luego. Bye bye. Hasta
Chao.
luego, Rolando. Un abrazo.
Ya, gracias.
Hasta
Luego.
luego, mucho gusto. Hasta luego.
Señor
Hasta
Juan,
luego.
hasta luego. Un abrazo. Daniel, un abrazo. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye,
Nos vemos.
everybody.
Bueno, Darío,
A
Chaito,
todos.
que estés bien, hasta luego.
Hasta luego, buen día a
Esteban, un
todos.
abrazo. Wilder, un abrazo. Bye bye. Nos vemos.
Darío,
Señor, ¿cómo va Daniel? ¿Cómo va
bien,
todo?
oye,
Bien.
bien. Oye, la presentación bien interesante, un poco específica, ¿no?
Claro que
Eh,
sí.
¿No tienen disponible la presentación que nos hicieron en Nueva York, que era más didáctica, más relativa al instrumento? ¿Podrán
Claro que
compartirnos esa
sí.
presentación?
Claro que sí. Yo la reviso y se las hago llegar. Esto y unos videos que estamos haciendo también.
Perfecto.
Listo,
Eso.
Dani. Listo, pues. Muchas gracias.
Saludos a todos.
Un
Peace
saludo
out.
a todos. Okay.
Thank you,
Eric.
Dario.
My friend, thank you for your time. Thank you, Todd.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks. Look great.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Yep.
¿Quién más queda por aquí?
Me voy ya. Hasta luego, Darío. Saludos a todos.
Ok, un abrazo. Bye bye. Cuídate, Mario. Ok, nos vemos. Bye bye.